term. That's one. Two, I like to, and I wasn't joking about like watching funny things. If I feel like I'm under a lot of stress or I'm anxious about something, I watch things that amuse me. So
Right.
it's kind of like get my mind off of things, and that really works for me. Like those are some, you got to develop certain strategies that when you're in certain environments, you know how to kind of like step back and get yourself in the right state of mind again.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so I just had my meeting with AT still this morning. I think I told you, and they have rolling admissions. So I'm technically trying to get everything done in like tomorrow, but 2 weeks. I've been working on it for a while. So I've reached out to another resource for editing. I would like to use myPAbox for another resource that's on the website. Um, I may end up even using, I don't know, I don't want to have two people to compare
I
editing
don't
my
think you need to.
essay.
I don't think you need to. If you're confident in your personal, again, if you're not confident at all, then yeah, you might want to do that. But if you had someone look at it and you are good with their critique of you and you've made those changes, you should be fine. I don't think you need two, three people to look at your paper, your personal statement.
So you guys have mock interviews, and
Right,
then you have an editing service, and then you have one for, I think, supplemental essays, correct?
right.
Okay. So
You provide all three.
what would you, if you could go back and there was a COVID-19 essay, what would you put in that with your experience and where you were at? Having that extra area in the CASPA section.
So I'll put it this way. So I don't work in the emergency room. So
Mhm.
I do orthopedic surgery outside of doing pain management, which is why I do full-time, ortho I do part-time. So when COVID hit, again, I would talk about personal experience. I wouldn't just like try to make something up. If you're a pre-PA and you had a personal experience with COVID in terms of you've seen something that you can't really get out of your head, or maybe it was the news or something, I don't know. If this learn how to describe something in a very artistic and vivid way. So the reason, same thing, this kind of goes to your personal statement. If you're not going to catch me within the first paragraph of your first personal statement, and usually people don't catch readers, is because they don't know how to paint a picture. You can literally just spit out your words and put it on paper or listen to like say something and write it down if you feel like it's catchy. And if you don't feel like it's catchy, scratch it and describe it in a different way that is catchy, a certain aspect that you want to describe. For me personally, I'll never forget like when COVID hit and they're saying, hey, listen, we're shit, obviously no elective surgery. So if there's no elective surgery, what am I really doing in the hospital? Right? Because there's plenty of staff there. I work there part time. I don't work there full time. With that said, the people that work there full time, like my colleagues, they're going to be the ones doing the emergency room consults if necessary. So technically, I don't really have to work because I'm there only to be in the operating room, or that's the role I've taken. So with that being said, they basically said to everybody, hey, because there's no elective surgery and there's very minimal emergency ortho surgeries, everyone's going to be transitioning to work in the emergency room. I was like, okay. So I remember coming down to the emergency room and I just saw the havoc of being in. Again, I've obviously did consults in the emergency room during my shifts part time when I'm not operating and there's a consult down there. I'll go down there. I've never seen it this hectic before. And I've rotated in undergrad or not undergrad during PE school at pretty busy emergency rooms, trauma one centers, probably like two, three of them that I've rotated in during different fields. And then I had to again go there for consults. I know I'm kind of like segueing a couple of things, but the point of what I'm trying to say to you is what I saw that day in the emergency room, it just doesn't, I can't take that out of my head. You know, there was doctors that didn't know what to do. There's PAs that didn't know what to do. We didn't have enough PPE. We didn't have enough beds. There's like people everywhere. You know, there's literally dead bodies in in their emergency room, just like sitting there, and no one can tend to them to kind of like take them somewhere else because we're attending to people that were alive. So just those two, yeah, I feel like you just gotta like chill for 2 seconds. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you can capture that moment and describe it in your personal statement, and then somehow put an emotional spin to it, real, be real. I think you'll capture the person across from you that's going to be reading it.
Mhm. That was
Because most people, when they apply to PA schools, you guys got to understand one thing: that on paper, a lot of you look the same. You guys probably have a good GPA. I'm not talking about people that have a poor GPA. Let's say that you have a moderate to fairly good GPA. You have the hours, you've met their minimum criteria, you've taken this, you've taken that, you did this, you did the extracurriculum activity, you did the community service, fine.
so right. Everyone looks the same. It's a
What
system.
distinguishes you from everybody else? It's your personal statement. Why? Because your personal statement is the distinguishing factor. Now, what else distinguishes you? Like, as you're getting weaned out or like funneled through their interview and the whole nine, is your interview. So your grades allow them, okay, let's look at the personal statement, right? That's kind of like what opens the door. When they look at your personal statement, that's what allows you an invitation for a seat. When you come and they actually talk to you, they see, okay, you know what, this person is someone that I want representing my school and the field, or not.
Mhm.
You can slice it anywhere it goes, but those are three factors. I don't care who you are. Those are three conditions, main factors. So personal statement has to be on point, right? But it's not the end of the world. If you messed up in certain aspects of the application, you should describe it in your personal statement as maybe a sentence or two and elaborate why you perhaps messed up and what you did to better yourself. A lot of schools also look and consider the last 60 credits of your undergrad or graduate career, whatever it is, meaning like the last 60 credits you've taken, period.
Mm.
Why? Because they know that if you're a young adult that just got into college, you may not take college seriously. Or there's certain things that may have happened that you don't really care for. You're there maybe to party, this, that, until life kind of hits you and you realize, oh, I'm supposed to have good grades if I want to apply somewhere, this, that, the other. So that's one of the factors that they look at the last 60 credits, because that really shows the maturity of the applicant.
Mhm.
You could have messed up in the beginning, but if you didn't, tighten things up and really understand, hey, if I want to get somewhere, this is what I have to do, and you do it, they can see that in the last 30, 40, 50, or 60 credits that they look at that you've taken. So that's a really valid point, especially with people that have very poor GPAs, overall GPAs.
Mhm.
So to look at schools that really weigh in on the last 60 credits.
Okay. What can you tell someone who may have to move away for PA school?
Do it. Understand why are you doing it.
What?
So what was that?
What did you say?
I said do it as
Yeah.
long as the reasoning is right.
Mhm.
Like, you have to walk through the steps of why are you going to a different state. So if you got, for instance, I'll give you one example. I don't think that's all examples, but just one example is if you got accepted to a school local to where you live, and the tuition is say 50 grand, and you decide to go to a different school in a different state that has the same tuition. Why would you do that? You have to tell yourself, I'm not asking, it's a rhetorical question. I'm just saying you have to reason as to why you're doing it. I think it's silly if you're going to a school in a different state that has similar tuition, unless there's like a particular reason why you're going there. For instance, say this school doesn't offer a cadaver lab and you want to learn on a school, like your anatomy and physiology and kind of like the physician assistant studies over a cadaver lab. Fine, that makes sense, but understand that your tuition along with your living expenses are going to go up that much higher because now you have to accommodate for living expenses for 2 years. because right now you might, I don't know about your situation, but when I was in PA school, I still live with my parents. So for me, I didn't have to worry about um, living expenses along the lines of paying rent, food, this, that, the other. Thank God my parents supported me at the time. Even though I didn't need financial support, I'm talking about they supported me. I had a place to live. I didn't have to worry about making rent. That's what I'm trying to say. So you have to accommodate, you have to, if you know the right reasons why you're doing something, go for it. But if you're just making rash decisions just because, oh, this school is like the best in the country or the best, who cares? Who cares? At the end of the day, you're going to get a license that's allowing you to practice whether you went to the worst school or the best school. It's about how you take in the information when you're there.
Okay. You're so awesome. You're so knowledgeable.
I appreciate that. I mean, listen, we spoke to like a million, like a lot of people already, and I've kind of like understood a lot of where their pitfalls are. And they're just somebody like some people just don't think through this. Like kind of what I was telling you. My parents kind of say, "Hey, go to medical school, go to dental school, go to this, go to that." Like, thank God my sisters are also in medicine. I'm the youngest one in my family, and they kind of like I give a lot of credit to my parents, but one of the things that they didn't do is kind of like sit us down and say, hey, why do you want to do this? Like, I know we told you to do this, but why do you want to do this?
Mhm.
Like they never sat us down to, are you thinking from a business standpoint? Are you thinking from this standpoint? Are you thinking from that standpoint? But to their benefit, they're immigrants. My parents immigrated here in 94. So they didn't have much. They had good careers there. My mom was a nurse anesthetist back in where she's from. My dad was a veterinarian. So they were also in fields that, they did well in. But because they needed to immigrate here, they kind of forgot about it, got basic jobs just to support us. So they basically told me, listen, the reason why we told you X, Y, Z years later when I had this conversation with them is you can have a 9 to 5, you can be stable. Whatever you want to do afterward, that's on you. As long as you can pay your bills, as long as you have money to like support your family, then it's all on you how business savvy you want to get, whatever you want to do, that's all on you. So, and this is one of the ventures that I got into. It's myPAbox. It's along the field that I'm doing. It's a different approach. My partner is basically saying the same thing. He loves the field, but there's a ceiling. As a provider, there's a ceiling, especially a PA. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. You guys leaving? All right, I'll close up. Thanks. So when you hit that ceiling, like as a PA, I think I hit that ceiling like year 5. Financially, I feel like. And I was like, all right, so this is the most you can kind of like do. I mean, there's other ways of making money as a PA, but again, in the fields that I know, is that kind of like the ceiling. All right, what do I do next? And my partner had the same kind of epiphany. He's all right, let's figure something out. And this was his idea. I was like, all right, listen, I think this is brilliant. Because he came up with this idea because he precepts students. And he realized that there's kind of like no uniformity to applying to PA school. Not like dental school, not like medical school. And this is what we put together. And don't get me the wrong way, there's a lot of other resources that are out there similar to myPAbox, but they are not comprehensive like PAbox. They have maybe one aspect, they have like a school match, but they don't allow you to enter criteria to see what you've completed, what you didn't complete. You have to do that on your own. Why not just create something that literally does everything for you? Kind of takes like the brain power away. It's there, it does it, but again, is it perfect? It's not. My partner and I are not. We didn't go to like computer engineering and like software development school. We learned all this like through YouTube and a couple of
Which
videos.
proves to show how hardworking and genius you guys are. I mean, you just answered it. Like,
Okay.
that is so cool and like badass that, I mean, you guys, this is not what you sought after, but yet you noticed something, you wanted to do something about it, which is totally a PA. But then you're giving back and you're helping people because these are future people you're going to be working with.
Right.
And you're like, how can we make this perfect and right, which is similar to, an emergency situation or orthopedics, putting something back or, critiquing something, making it better. And here we are. You guys made this masterpiece and it's helping a lot of people.
I'll give you an example.